Hi Montana, day 55, and we only dealt with the budget today. The budget always comes to us in the form of House Bill 2. It's always the same number, and it's divided into sections that are lettered A through E. The sections deal with groups of funding that are similar in nature. And for the rest of this video, you should know two things. The first thing you should know is that a party line vote is 41 to 59. And the second thing you should know is that our budget shows our values, shows what we value as a state. So you might have heard from friends and family members and coworkers that the budget the legislature is putting together has these devastating cuts that are really bad for Montanans, and that's true. A lot of folks are really worried about it. I've gotten lots of mail and phone calls on it. So today, all day long, the Democrats just brought amendment after amendment trying to undo those cuts and put money in the budget to serve Montanans. So in the first section of the budget, the Democrats brought an amendment to restore the funding cuts to the Montana Youth Challenge program, and it failed, 41 to 59. We brought an amendment to restore the funding for one attorney in the Office of Political Practices, and it failed, 41 to 59. Just ask yourself, why would a politician not want to have any attorney in the office that is responsible for overseeing that politician's campaign finance reports? Because that's how that vote went down today. We brought an amendment to try to restore the funding for the Jobs for Montana Graduates programs. This is the program that helps so many high school students prepare for and get their first job, and it failed, 41 to 59. We brought an amendment to restore funding to the National Guard, and it failed, 41 to 58, which means someone just forgot to vote. In the second section, Section B, we brought an amendment that would have given a teeny tiny amount of money for respite care, and it failed, 41 to 59. We brought an amendment to try to restore the funding cuts to senior and long-term care. We picked up one Republican vote, that was 42 to 58. We brought an amendment to try to fund Medicaid, and it failed, 41 to 59. We brought an amendment to raise wages for direct care workers. We picked up one Republican vote. It was 42 to 58, and the chair during that section said that paying workers is a knee-jerk reaction. These are workers who help our most vulnerable Montanans eat and manage their medicine and get dressed and bathe. They make $9.50 an hour, and apparently paying them more is a knee-jerk reaction. We brought an amendment to restore the cuts to the DPHHS, and that failed, 41 to 59. And so we're starting to see a pattern where the Republican Party believes in cutting government, so then the government can't provide adequate services, so then they can blame the government for doing a bad job, so then they can further defund government. It's this downward spiral in a philosophy called using austerity measures. It doesn't work. It has sunk other states, and all of these little things to chip away at our state government are part of those austerity measures that are really meant to do away with the services that we enjoy. In the third section, we just brought one amendment, and it was to provide a small amount of money to implement the CSKT Water Compact, because we said we would, and it's important to honor your treaties. Failed, 41 to 59. No amendments to Section D. That's the corrections section, and corrections were fully funded, as should everything else be. Section E is the education section. So far, this legislature has failed to fund special education, which is illegal because Montana's Constitution provides, and court cases since the creation of that Constitution have said that we as a legislature have a constitutional obligation to provide free and adequate public education for every student, which includes safe facilities, and funding for special education. But I digress. We brought an amendment to fund special education with $1.6 million. Failed 43 to 57, so we picked up 2 Republican votes. We brought an amendment to provide $32,000 for Indian language immersion programs. $32,000 in a budget this size is the equivalent of digging a couple of pennies out of your pocket. Failed 41 to 59. We brought an amendment to provide $1 million for college scholarships in the state of Montana. Half of it would go for need-based and half of it would go for merit-based, meaning you can either get a college scholarship because your family's poor or you can get a college scholarship because you had straight A's. Right now, Montana does not have any money available for poor students to get scholarships to go to college. 0. And on a 42 to 58 vote today, the Republicans voted against that. We brought an amendment to replace cuts in higher education in general, which then would avoid tuition hikes for current and future students. Picked up 1 Republican vote, 42 to 58. We brought an amendment to provide $1.6 million of funding for the Digital Academy. It's important to know that the Digital Academy's budget got cut in half. And our graduation rate as a state are directly tied to the Digital Academy use rate. The Digital Academy is really, really important for rural schools. The Digital Academy allows high school students access to college credits before they graduate, which then lowers the total amount of student debt that they have. We picked up 2 Republican votes, so it failed, 43 to 57. We brought an amendment to fund career and technical education for 6th through 12th grade, and it got the highest losing vote. We got 46 to 54, so we got 5 Republicans, seriously because I begged and they knew it wouldn't pass. We brought an amendment to provide $50,000 for the Montana Digital Academy to develop online curriculum on Indian languages. Again, a $50,000 amendment is literally like getting a couple of pennies out of the bottom of your pocket. Failed. And so you're going to read in the newspaper either today or tomorrow morning that the Republican leadership is going to call us irresponsible, that we tried to blow up the budget, and that we tried to bring all of these millions of dollars of extra spending that would have broken the bank for the state. And that's what they're going to say. But just remember, your budget shows your values. And the reason I voted for every single one of those amendments today is because I also support not giving tax breaks to oil and gas companies, which the Republicans have done. That money would have funded these amendments. I support shortening or eliminating the oil and gas tax holiday. The Republicans refuse to even consider that. Every oil and gas company has a complete tax-free holiday on the first 18 months of production. And if we didn't do that, we could pay for all of these services. There used to be more tax brackets, and so the wealthiest Montanans were in a higher tax bracket. Those got eliminated as part of these austerity measures, and the Republicans refused to reinstate the tax brackets that worked for so long in the state. Those higher tax brackets would pay for all of these amendments. Montana has a capital gains tax credit where you can get a tax credit on money that you earn just because you're already rich. There's no tax credit on money that you earn by working in senior and long-term care, or by being a direct care worker, or by working in the service industry. But you can get a tax credit if you're just already wealthy enough to invest big bucks. If we did away with that tax credit, we could more than pay for all of these amendments. So it's not irresponsible. We are the ones that have fiscal responsibility and understand that it's our job as a government to raise enough revenue to then pay for the services on which Montanans depend. But there are not 51 of us. There are only 41 of us. And until there are 51 of us in the Montana House of Representatives, we're not going to be able to pass all of those reasonable tax policies that I just talked about. And we're not going to be able to provide the services that I talked about in this 10-minute video. It's just the way that it is. And so we need to really work on a majority. Your budget shows your values, and I voted my values today, as did the other 40 Democrats. See you tomorrow.